At 07:23 on the morning of October 14, 1942, Private First Class Daniel McCarthy crouched in a perimeter foxhole at Henderson Field, Guadalcanal, watching Corporal James Rivera bleed out from a bullet wound that entered his skull at a 45-degree angle. The bullet had punched through Rivera's helmet just above his left ear. Clean entry. No exit wound. The round was still inside his head. Rivera's eyes were open, his mouth moved. No words came out, just a wet, rasping sound. Blood ran down his neck, pooled in the red mud at the bottom of the foxhole. McCarthy pressed his hand against the wound, felt the warmth, felt Rivera's pulse hammering against his palm, then slowing, then stopping. The sound came after. That's what always happened. The crack of the bullet impacting flesh and bone arrived before the rifle report. Speed of sound versus speed of bullet. The physics of being shot by someone you couldn't see. McCarthy heard the distant boom maybe half a second after Rivera fell. Single shot, one rifle, somewhere in the jungle, 300 yards, maybe 400, maybe more. Rivera had been eating breakfast. 19 years old. Kansas City. He'd been opening a can of peaches, standard C ration. The kind every Marine complained about but ate anyway because there wasn't anything else. He'd been smiling, talking about a girl back home. McCarthy couldn't remember her name now. Couldn't remember what Rivera had said about her. Could only remember the way Rivera's head snapped back when the bullet hit, the way the can of peaches fell from his hands, the way the syrup spilled into the mud. A corpsman named Davis ran across the perimeter. Kept low. Smart. He slid into the foxhole. Checked Rivera's pulse at the throat. Shook his head. Rivera was the 8th Marine killed by Japanese snipers in 6 days. October 8th through October 14th. 8 dead Marines, 14 wounded. 22 total casualties from an enemy that nobody could see, nobody could locate, nobody could kill. The perimeter went quiet after Rivera died. Marines stayed in their foxholes. Didn't move. Didn't talk. Just waited for the next shot. Waited to see which one of them would die next. The problem wasn't new. Japanese snipers had been killing Marines since the landing on August 7th. But it had gotten worse in October. Much worse. The Japanese had positioned their best snipers in the jungle canopy surrounding Henderson Field. They fired from camouflaged positions in trees, from spider holes dug into the jungle floor, from bunkers concealed in the dense vegetation. They were professionals, patient, disciplined, deadly. Every kill followed the same pattern. Single shot. Head or upper chest. Distance estimated between 300 and 500 yards, based on wound trajectory analysis. No muzzle flash visible through the jungle vegetation. No sound until after impact. By the time Marines identified the shot direction, sniper had relocated. Gone. Invisible. American doctrine said to call in artillery on suspected sniper positions. Henderson Field had plenty of artillery. Marine gunners fired 47 fire missions against suspected sniper locations between October 8th and October 14th. 47 missions. 138 rounds of 105mm high explosive, 0 confirmed kills. The jungle was too thick. Artillery rounds exploded in the canopy 30 to 60 feet above the ground. Shrapnel shredded leaves and branches. The snipers below remained untouched, protected by the jungle itself. Airstrikes didn't work either. Marine pilots flew 12 close air support sorties against sniper positions during the same period. Dropped 50-pound bombs. Strafed with 50 caliber machine guns. Hit nothing. The pilots couldn't see targets through the vegetation. They bombed coordinates provided by ground forces. But by the time aircraft arrived, the snipers had moved. The jungle absorbed the ordnance. The killing continued. Marine marksmen with M1903 Springfield rifles tried counter-sniper operations. 0 kills. 2 marksmen wounded. The Springfields were accurate enough. The Marines shooting them were trained well enough. But training on rifle ranges in California didn't prepare anyone for hunting invisible enemies in jungle vegetation so thick you couldn't see 30 yards in any direction. The casualty rate was destroying morale faster than Japanese infantry attacks ever did. Marines stopped moving during daylight hours, stopped going to the mess tent. Meal attendance dropped from 92% to 24% between October 10th and October 14th. Men ate sea rations in their foxholes rather than risk exposure. Latrine usage shifted entirely to night hours. Nobody wanted to be the Marine who died taking a shit because a Japanese sniper shot him at 400 yards. Combat effectiveness was degraded. Patrols refused to move beyond the perimeter. Observation posts went unmanned. Supply runs happened only after dark. Henderson Field was supposed to be secured American territory. Instead, it functioned like a besieged fortress. The Japanese owned the jungle. The Marines owned their foxholes. Barely. Command worried that if the sniper problem wasn't solved soon, Henderson Field itself might become untenable. Major General Alexander Vandergrift, commanding 1st Marine Division, knew the numbers. 8 dead, 14 wounded, 6 days. Extrapolate that rate forward, and the division would suffer 40 casualties per month from snipers alone, 40 men who could be fighting Japanese infantry, 40 men who could be defending the airfield. 40 men lost to an enemy they couldn't even see. The first attempt to solve the problem came on October 9th. Corporal Michael Stevens volunteered. He was a designated marksman, farm kid from Nebraska. Good shot. He'd qualified expert with the M1903 at boot camp, scored 187 out of a possible 200, better than 90% of Marines. Stevens carried an M1903 Springfield with iron sights. No scope. Marine Corps didn't issue scopes to regular marksmen, only to specially designated snipers, and there weren't any of those on Guadalcanal yet. Stevens set up in a tree at the perimeter edge before dawn on October 9th. Good position. Clear fields of fire. He waited 4 hours. At 08:35, he spotted movement. A Japanese sniper climbing into a tree 400 yards distant. Stevens could see him clearly through his iron sights. He fired 3 shots, all missed. The Japanese sniper relocated immediately. 90 seconds later, Stevens took a bullet through the chest, fell 20 feet from his tree, died before the corpsman reached him. The second attempt happened on October 11th, 2 Marines this time. Privates Thomas Johnson and Roberto Martinez. Both carried M1903 Springfields. Both rifles had 8-power unertal scopes. The scopes were personal purchases, mail order from civilian suppliers. The Marine Corps didn't officially authorize them, but command looked the other way because nobody had better options. Johnson and Martinez set up an observation post 300 yards into the jungle at 0500 hours. They had good concealment, good visibility down a natural shooting lane. They waited 3 hours. At 08:15, a Japanese sniper fired from somewhere to their north. Killed a Marine named Patterson at the perimeter. Johnson and Martinez tried to locate the shooter. Couldn't see him. The jungle was too dense. At 08:17, the Japanese sniper fired again, this time at Johnson and Martinez. He'd spotted them, maybe saw their scope glint, maybe saw movement. The first shot killed Johnson. Headshot. Instant death. Martinez took the second shot through his right shoulder, shattered his collarbone. He managed to crawl back to the perimeter. Survived. But he never returned to duty. Medical evacuation to rear area. The Japanese sniper disappeared. Third attempt was October 12th. Different approach this time. Command sent a full rifle squad into the jungle. 12 Marines. Their mission was to locate and destroy Japanese sniper positions. Not to engage the snipers themselves. Just find where they operated. Map the positions. Call in artillery or airstrikes. The squad found 3 positions. All showed signs of recent use. Spent cartridge cases. 7.7mm. Japanese Type 97 sniper rifle ammunition. Flattened vegetation where snipers had lain prone. Fighting positions carved into tree branches. But no snipers. The Japanese had already moved. They never stayed in one position long enough to be found. The squad returned empty-handed. That night, Japanese snipers killed 2 more Marines. The pattern was clear. American forces were reactive. Japanese snipers were proactive. Americans responded to kills. Japanese snipers anticipated responses and relocated before Americans arrived. It was a losing game, and the Japanese were winning. Marine marksmen were trained for open terrain, for shooting at targets on rifle ranges with known distances and favorable conditions. They weren't trained for jungle warfare, weren't trained to hunt men who understood the terrain better than they did, weren't trained for 3-dimensional combat where the enemy attacked from trees 60 feet overhead. The training gap was killing Marines. The equipment gap was worse. M1903 Springfields were excellent rifles, accurate, reliable. But most Marines using them had maybe 500 rounds of experience with that specific rifle. They didn't know their weapons intimately, didn't know exactly where every shot would land at every range under every condition. They were competent, but competent wasn't good enough against Japanese snipers who'd been training for years. This was the situation on the morning of October 14th when Daniel Patrick McCarthy decided he'd watched enough men die. McCarthy was 24 years old. Born in Missoula, Montana, on March 3, 1918. His father ran a hunting guide service in the Rocky Mountains. McCarthy grew up hunting, started shooting at age 8. By 16, he could hit a running elk at 300 yards with iron sights. By 20, he was guiding hunts himself. Rich men from back east paid him to take them into the mountains and find trophy animals. McCarthy found the animals. The clients shot them. Usually, sometimes McCarthy had to finish wounded animals when clients missed vital shots. He got good at shooting fast and shooting accurately under pressure. In 1939, McCarthy entered the Montana State Rifle Championship. 200 shooters, 3 stages, iron sights, scoped rifles, moving targets. McCarthy finished second overall. Lost to a competitive shooter who'd been training for years. McCarthy had been training his whole life, but for hunting, not competition. Still, second place out of 200 wasn't bad. He enlisted in the United States Marine Corps on December 19, 1941, 12 days after Pearl Harbor. America was at war. McCarthy felt obligated. His father understood. His mother cried. McCarthy promised to come home. He shipped out to Guadalcanal on August 7, 1942. He brought something with him that violated Marine Corps regulations. His personal hunting rifle. Winchester Model 70, in .30, .6 caliber. Serial number 23847. He'd bought it through the Sears catalog in 1938 for $73. Spent another $42 on a Lyman Alaskan scope, 4-power magnification. Simple, reliable, perfect for hunting at ranges out to 500 yards. McCarthy had customized the rifle himself, glass-bedded the action in 1939. This meant embedding the rifle's action in a glass and epoxy compound within the stock. It eliminated any movement between metal and wood, improved accuracy significantly. He'd also hand-lapped the barrel, pushed progressively finer abrasive compounds through the bore until it was perfectly smooth. This reduced bullet deformation and improved consistency. Finally, he'd free-floated the barrel, cut away wood from the stock so the barrel touched nothing except the receiver. This prevented the stock from warping in humidity and affecting accuracy. The trigger pull was 2½ pounds, light enough for precise control, heavy enough to prevent accidental discharge. McCarthy knew this rifle better than he knew anything else in his life. He'd fired more than 10,000 rounds through it. Knew exactly where every bullet would land at every range he'd practiced. At 400 yards, he could put 10 shots into a 6-inch circle, every time. Under field conditions, he'd smuggled the Winchester onto the transport ship in his sea bag, declared it as surveying equipment on the manifest. Nobody checked. Nobody cared. The ship was packed with weapons anyway. One more rifle didn't matter. McCarthy kept it wrapped in oilcloth, stored in his footlocker, waiting for the moment he'd need it. That moment came at 08:45 on October 14th, right after Rivera died. McCarthy walked to the company command post. Found Lieutenant James Whitaker standing outside his tent. Whitaker was McCarthy's platoon commander, 26 years old, Ohio. He'd been talking with Platoon Sergeant William Kowalski and Gunnery Sergeant Patrick O'Brien. All three men looked tired. They'd lost 8 Marines in 6 days. They had no solutions. McCarthy approached, stood at attention, said he had a way to kill the Japanese snipers. Lieutenant Whitaker looked at McCarthy for 3 seconds. Then he looked at Platoon Sergeant Kowalski, then at Gunnery Sergeant O'Brien. Nobody spoke. McCarthy stood at attention, waited. Whitaker finally asked what McCarthy meant. McCarthy said he had a rifle, a hunting rifle. He could kill the Japanese snipers if command gave him permission. Kowalski laughed, not a friendly laugh. The kind of laugh that meant he thought McCarthy was insane. O'Brien didn't laugh. He just stared at McCarthy like he was looking at a private who'd lost his mind. Kowalski asked what kind of rifle. McCarthy said Winchester Model 70. 30-06 caliber. Scoped. His personal weapon. He'd brought it from Montana. Kowalski's laugh got louder. He asked if McCarthy wanted to hunt Japanese snipers with a mail-order deer rifle. McCarthy said yes. That was exactly what he wanted to do. O'Brien asked if McCarthy understood that the Marine Corps issued weapons for a reason, that there were regulations, that M1903 Springfields were the authorized marksman weapons, that personal rifles violated about a dozen different protocols. McCarthy said he understood, said the M1903 was a fine rifle, but his Winchester had killed elk in Montana at 400 yards in weather cold enough to freeze diesel fuel. It would work here. The battalion armourer arrived. Technical Sergeant Charles Murphy. He'd overheard the conversation. Murphy was career Marine, 22 years in service. He'd seen everything, or thought he had. He told McCarthy that civilian hunting rifles wouldn't survive combat conditions. The scope would fog in the humidity. Guadalcanal humidity averaged 87%. Glass lenses fogged. The rifle's action would jam with jungle dirt. The fine tolerances of civilian rifles couldn't handle combat debris. The barrel would overheat. Civilian barrels weren't designed for rapid fire. The rifle would fail, probably get McCarthy killed. McCarthy listened, didn't interrupt. When Murphy finished, McCarthy said his rifle had killed moose in Alaska rain, had killed elk in Montana snow, had killed mule deer in Wyoming dust storms. The rifle worked in every condition he'd tested. The scope had never fogged, the action had never jammed, the barrel had never overheated because McCarthy never fired rapidly. 1 shot, 1 kill. That was how hunting worked. O'Brien said the M1903 Springfield was the authorized weapon. That was what Marines used. That was what command approved. McCarthy said the M1903 hadn't killed any Japanese snipers yet. 8 Marines were dead. 14 were wounded. Maybe it was time to try something different. Silence. Nobody had an answer for that. The numbers were undeniable. 8 dead, 14 wounded, 6 days. 0 enemy kills. The authorized weapons and authorized tactics had failed completely. Whitaker looked at Rivera's body, still on a stretcher near the command post, covered with a poncho, waiting for Graves' registration. Whitaker was 26 years old. He'd been in command of this platoon for 4 months. He'd lost 8 men in 6 days to an enemy he couldn't fight. He made a decision that violated Marine Corps regulations, maybe a dozen regulations. He didn't care anymore. Whitaker told McCarthy he had 72 hours, 3 days. Kill the Japanese snipers or Whitaker would confiscate the Winchester and break it over McCarthy's head. Then he'd court-martial McCarthy for possessing unauthorized weapons. McCarthy said he understood. Whitaker dismissed him. Kowalski started to object, said the decision violated protocols. Whitaker cut him off, said he knew exactly what it violated. Said 8 dead Marines violated his ability to sleep at night. Said if McCarthy could kill even 1 Japanese sniper with his mail-order hunting rifle, It was worth breaking every regulation in the manual. Kowalski didn't argue further. McCarthy returned to his foxhole, retrieved his Winchester from his footlocker, unwrapped it from the oilcloth. The rifle looked perfect. No rust, no corrosion. The Lyman scope was alter, clear. The action cycled smoothly. He'd maintained it carefully every day since landing on Guadalcanal. Knew the jungle humidity would destroy metal if he wasn't vigilant. He'd been vigilant. At 0900 hours, McCarthy began his preparation. He studied every Japanese sniper kill from the past 6 days. Talked to survivors. Talked to corpsmen who'd treated the wounded. Talked to anyone who'd seen or heard anything. He plotted each kill on a hand-drawn map. Noted the time. Noted the location. Noted the wound angle. The pattern emerged quickly. All shots fired between 0600 and 0900 hours. Morning, or between 1600 and 1800 hours. Afternoon. No shots during midday. The Japanese snipers were avoiding the midday heat. Smart. Heat shimmer affected long-range accuracy. Air temperature created mirage effects that distorted targets. Professional snipers knew this. They shot during the coolest parts of the day when atmospheric conditions were most stable. The shooting lanes were consistent. 3 main corridors through the jungle where Japanese snipers had clear lines of sight to Henderson Field perimeter. All shots came from these corridors. Distance was consistently 350 to 450 yards, never closer, never farther. The Japanese snipers understood their effective range. Didn't take shots they couldn't make. McCarthy studied the kill pattern more carefully. Noticed something the intelligence officers had missed. The Japanese snipers never used the same position twice in the same day. They'd fire from one tree, relocate immediately, fire from a different position hours later, sometimes 1,000 yards away, sometimes more. They were disciplined, patient, professional. They understood that staying in one position meant death. This told McCarthy something important. He couldn't hunt the sniper's last position. By the time he reached it, the sniper would be gone. He needed to hunt the sniper's next position. Predict where the enemy would shoot from before the enemy got there. Set up first. Wait. Ambush the ambusher. McCarthy plotted probable shooting positions based on the pattern. Found 6 locations that offered the same advantages the previous positions had. Good fields of fire, concealment, escape routes. The Japanese snipers thought like hunters. McCarthy was a hunter. He understood how they thought, understood where they'd go. He chose his position. A slight rise 1,200 yards into the jungle. It overlooked 3 probable Japanese shooting lanes. If a Japanese sniper moved into any of those positions, McCarthy would have a clear shot. Range would be 380 to 420 yards. Well within his effective range. McCarthy checked his equipment. Winchester Model 70. Cleaned, oiled, ready. 20 rounds of ammunition. Hand-loaded by McCarthy himself in 1941 before the war. Each cartridge was identical. Same powder charge. Same bullet weight. Same overall length. Consistency was everything in long-range shooting. These rounds would shoot to the same point of impact every time. The bullets were 175-grain Sierra Matchking boat-tail hollow points, competition-grade projectiles, designed for maximum accuracy. Muzzle velocity was 2,650 feet per second. At 400 yards, the bullet would drop approximately 37 inches below line of sight. McCarthy knew this because he'd tested it. Shot his Winchester at every range from 100 to 500 yards. Recorded every result. Built a mental database of holdovers and wind corrections. He packed his Bausch and Lomb binoculars, 7-power magnification, German optics. His father had given them to him in 1936. They were better than anything the Marine Corps issued. He filled his canteen. Didn't pack food. Food had scent. Scent carried in humid jungle air. Japanese snipers might smell American rations. McCarthy didn't want to give them any advantage. He applied camouflage face paint. Marine issue green and brown, covered his face, neck, hands, anything that might reflect light. He wore his utility uniform, no helmet. Helmets created glare. The curve of steel caught sunlight. Japanese snipers looked for that glare. McCarthy wouldn't give them a target. Lieutenant Whitaker assigned McCarthy a spotter. Private First Class Anthony Russo, Brooklyn, New York, 20 years old. Russo had good eyes, good instincts. He'd survived 3 months on Guadalcanal without getting killed. That meant he was smart. McCarthy needed smart. Russo looked at McCarthy's Winchester, asked if a mail-order rifle would really work against Japanese snipers. McCarthy said they'd find out tomorrow. Russo asked what happened if it didn't work. McCarthy said they'd probably die. Russo laughed, not a happy laugh. The kind of laugh that meant he understood the stakes. They left the perimeter at 04:30 hours on October 15th. Dark, humid. 86 degrees already. The jungle was waking up. Birds calling, monkeys screaming in the canopy. Insects everywhere. Mosquitoes landed on McCarthy's face. He didn't brush them away. Movement attracted attention. He let them bite. They moved slowly. Took 90 minutes to cover 1,200 yards. In daylight on open ground, that distance would take 15 minutes. But this wasn't open ground. This was jungle. Every step had to be planned. Every footfall silent. Broken branches made noise. Dried leaves crackled. Japanese snipers listened for American movement. McCarthy gave them nothing to hear. They reached McCarthy's chosen position at 0600 hours. A slight rise, with good visibility down 3 shooting lanes. The longest lane stretched 420 yards. The shortest was 380 yards. Perfect range for McCarthy's Winchester. Perfect range for the 4-power Lyman scope. McCarthy settled into position, prone. Winchester rested on a small log for stability. Russo lay beside him with the binoculars. They waited. The jungle grew brighter as the sun rose. Light filtered through the canopy, created patterns of shadow and illumination, made depth perception difficult, made range estimation harder. McCarthy had hunted in forests his entire life. He understood how light worked in heavy timber. 0615. Movement, 400 yards. Russo saw it first. Whispered to McCarthy. Japanese sniper climbing into a tree. McCarthy found him in the scope, watched him move branch to branch. The Japanese sniper was good. Moved carefully, created minimal disturbance. But he was visible. 600 yards away. Too far for a certain kill. Russo whispered that the range was too far. McCarthy said the sniper would move closer. Said he was setting up. Finding the right position. They waited. McCarthy controlled his breathing. Slow inhale. Slow exhale. Montana elk hunting had taught him patience. Taught him to wait for the perfect shot rather than take a marginal one. 0648. The Japanese sniper repositioned. Moved to a different tree. Closer. 410 yards. McCarthy ranged him through the scope, calculated the holdover. At 410 yards, the bullet would drop approximately 39 inches. McCarthy's scope was zeroed at 200 yards. He needed to hold approximately 3 feet high to compensate for bullet drop. The Japanese sniper settled into his new position. He was preparing to shoot toward Henderson Field. Looking away from McCarthy. Didn't know he was being hunted. McCarthy placed the crosshairs 3 feet above the sniper's center mass. Accounted for bullet drop. Wind was negligible. Maybe 2 miles per hour from the east. Not enough to affect the shot. McCarthy's finger touched the trigger. 2½ pounds of pressure. He'd made this trigger pull 10,000 times. Knew exactly how it felt. Knew exactly when it would break. He increased pressure slowly. The trigger broke clean. The Winchester fired. Recoil pushed against McCarthy's shoulder. Familiar, comfortable. Through the scope, McCarthy watched the bullet impact. The Japanese sniper jerked, fell from the tree, 60 feet. McCarthy heard the impact when the body hit the ground. Confirmed kill. Russo whispered, "Jesus Christ," said McCarthy got him. McCarthy was already cycling the Winchester's bolt. Smooth action. perfectly machined, a fresh round chambered. He scanned for threats. Japanese snipers sometimes worked in pairs, one shooter, one spotter. If this sniper had a partner, the partner might return fire. They waited 20 minutes. No response, no return fire. The Japanese sniper had been working alone. McCarthy and Russo extracted carefully, moved back toward the perimeter using a different route than they'd used coming in. Took 2 hours. They reached friendly lines at 0800 hours. McCarthy reported to Lieutenant Whitaker at 0830. Confirmed kill. Japanese sniper. 410 yards. Single shot. Whitaker looked skeptical. Asked if McCarthy was certain the sniper was dead. McCarthy said a 60-foot fall from a tree would kill anyone. Whitaker said he needed confirmation. He sent a patrol. The patrol returned at 0945. Corporal William Davis led it. Davis reported 1 dead Japanese sniper. Male, approximately 30 years old. Type 97 sniper rifle. 4 power scope. The sniper had fallen from a tree, broken neck. Also had a bullet wound. Center mass. Through and through. He was very dead. First confirmed Japanese sniper kill since the Marines landed on Guadalcanal on August 7th. 68 days without killing a single enemy sniper. McCarthy had done it in one morning with a mail-order hunting rifle. Whitaker looked at McCarthy, looked at the Winchester, looked at Kowalski and O'Brien. Nobody said anything for 5 seconds. Then Whitaker told McCarthy to do it again. McCarthy said, "Yes, sir." McCarthy and Russo went back into the jungle at 0500 hours on October 16th. Different position this time, 2,000 yards from the previous kill site. The Japanese would adjust their tactics. They'd know an American sniper was hunting them. They'd be more cautious, more alert. McCarthy needed to think like them, predict their adjustments, stay ahead of their reactions. The new position overlooked a different section of jungle. Different shooting lanes, different angles of approach. McCarthy had studied the terrain the previous evening. Identified probable Japanese movement routes. The enemy snipers had to get into position somehow. They walked through the jungle, left trails. McCarthy was betting they'd use the same infiltration routes they'd used before. Humans were creatures of habit, even professional snipers. They settled into position at 0545. Full dark still. The jungle was quiet. McCarthy could hear his own breathing, could hear Russo shifting position beside him, could hear mosquitoes buzzing. Nothing else. They waited for dawn. 0632. Movement. McCarthy saw it through his binoculars. 2 figures moving through the jungle 400 yards distant. Japanese snipers. Working as a team. Primary shooter and spotter. The spotter carried binoculars. The shooter carried a Type 97 sniper rifle. They were moving toward a tree line that offered clear shots toward Henderson Field. Range was 380 yards, good range for McCarthy's Winchester. He tracked them through the Lyman scope, watched them move. They were disciplined, careful, stopped frequently to observe, listened for threats. These weren't amateurs. McCarthy made a decision that violated conventional counter-sniper doctrine. He targeted the spotter first, not the shooter. Doctrine said eliminate the primary threat. The shooter was the primary threat. But McCarthy understood something doctrine didn't account for. The spotter coordinated the team. The spotter found targets, called ranges, read wind. Without the spotter, the shooter lost half his effectiveness, became isolated, made mistakes. The spotter stopped at 380 yards. Raised his binoculars. Started scanning Henderson Field perimeter. Looking for targets. McCarthy put the crosshairs on the spotter's chest. Held 3 feet high to compensate for bullet drop, squeezed the trigger. The Winchester fired at 0633. Through the scope, McCarthy watched the spotter fall. The bullet hit center mass. Devastating wound. The spotter dropped immediately, dead before he hit the ground. The primary shooter panicked, broke cover, started running. Worst possible decision. Moving targets were harder to hit, but a running man in open jungle was visible. Obvious. McCarthy cycled the Winchester's bolt. Smooth action, fresh round chambered. Took him 1.5 seconds. The primary shooter was running left to right, 390 yards now, moving at approximately 8 miles per hour. McCarthy calculated the lead. At that range and speed, he needed to aim 12 inches ahead of the target. Account for the time the bullet was in flight, 0.2 of a second at that distance. He led the target. Squeezed the trigger. The Winchester fired. The bullet intercepted the running sniper perfectly. Hit him in the upper chest. The impact spun him sideways. He fell. Didn't move again. 2 kills. 90 seconds. 06:34 hours. Russo was watching through binoculars. He said that was the best shooting he'd ever seen. McCarthy didn't respond. He was already scanning for threats. 2 dead Japanese snipers meant other Japanese forces might investigate, might send patrols, might send artillery. They needed to move immediately. McCarthy told Russo to pack up. They relocated 800 yards northwest, different position, different field of fire. Took them 20 minutes. They settled into the new position at 06:55. Smart decision. At 0700 hours, Japanese artillery started hitting their old position. 20 rounds, 105mm, high explosive. The Japanese had triangulated McCarthy's shots, figured out approximately where he'd fired from, called in artillery strikes. The artillery barrage lasted 6 minutes, 12 rounds per minute, 2 guns firing, 100-yard bracket around McCarthy's old position. If they'd still been there, they would have died. McCarthy and Russo hunched in their new position, listened to the artillery impact, felt the concussion waves, waited for it to stop. The artillery ceased at 07:06. McCarthy and Russo waited another 30 minutes. Made sure the Japanese weren't sending follow-up strikes. At 07:38, they extracted. Moved back toward Henderson Field perimeter. Arrived at 09:15. McCarthy reported to Lieutenant Whitaker. 3 confirmed kills. 2 Japanese, snipers on October 16th. Combined with the kill on October 15th, that made 3 total. 3 days into his 72-hour deadline, Whitaker asked if McCarthy could keep going. McCarthy said yes. As long as there were Japanese snipers, he'd keep hunting them. The Japanese noticed. Radio intercepts translated post-war from captured documents showed Japanese command discussing the situation on October 16th. The intercepts said an American sniper was operating near Henderson Field perimeter. Said 3 Japanese snipers had been killed in 2 days. Said all remaining snipers should exercise extreme caution, should not use predictable positions, should coordinate movement with artillery support. The Japanese were adapting. They changed their tactics immediately. Shorter exposure times in shooting positions, more frequent position changes, deeper camouflage, larger team operations with multiple spotters. They were taking McCarthy seriously, taking him seriously enough to change decades of established sniper doctrine. But the tactical changes created an operational gap. Japanese snipers became more cautious. That caution meant fewer shots at American targets. October 15th and October 16th were the first consecutive days without Marine casualties from Japanese snipers since October 8th. First 48-hour period in 9 days where nobody died from a bullet they didn't see coming. Marines noticed, started moving during daylight again, started going to the mess tent. Mess attendance climbed from 24% to 41% on October 16th, still below normal, but improving. Men talked about the American sniper hunting the Japanese snipers. Nobody knew his name yet, just knew someone was killing the enemy. That knowledge improved morale more than any speech from any officer. Whitaker told McCarthy to continue operations. Whatever McCarthy was doing, it was working. Not just the kills, the psychological impact. The Japanese were scared now. They were the ones hiding, the ones changing tactics, the ones reacting instead of acting. McCarthy went out again on October 17th, 04:45 departure. This time he changed his approach completely. Instead of setting up near the perimeter and waiting for Japanese snipers to come to him, he went deep into the jungle, 1,500 yards beyond friendly lines, into Japanese-controlled territory. He was hunting them in their staging areas, where they prepared for operations, where they felt safe. High-risk approach. If Japanese infantry found him, he was dead. No support, no backup, no extraction. Just McCarthy, Russo, and a Winchester hunting rifle against an entire Japanese regiment. But high risk meant high reward. The Japanese wouldn't expect an American sniper operating that deep in their territory. 07:20 hours. McCarthy found what he was looking for, a Japanese sniper position occupied by 3 snipers. They were preparing for the day's operations, checking weapons, ranging targets visible through the jungle. They felt safe this far from American lines, safe enough to relax their security discipline slightly. Fatal mistake. Range was 280 yards, close range for McCarthy, almost too close, but the vegetation was thick, limited his options. He had a clear shot at the rightmost sniper. The other 2 were partially concealed by trees. McCarthy would get 1 shot before they scattered. Had to make it count. He aimed at the rightmost sniper. Held approximately 2 feet high for bullet drop at 280 yards. Fired. The Winchester's report echoed through the jungle. Loud. The rightmost sniper fell. Dead. The other 2 snipers scrambled, dove for cover, started shouting. McCarthy cycled the bolt, tracked the second sniper. Fired again. Hit him in the back as he ran. The sniper went down. Stayed down. The third sniper found cover behind a large tree. Smart. The tree was thick enough to stop 30-06 rounds. McCarthy couldn't shoot through it. Standoff situation. The Japanese sniper was pinned. But so was McCarthy. First one to move would expose himself. Russo watched through binoculars. Whispered that the Japanese sniper was pinned. McCarthy said they'd wait. See who had more patience. 15 minutes passed. The temperature climbed. 92 degrees. Humidity oppressive. Felt like breathing through a wet towel. Sweat ran down McCarthy's face. Stung his eyes. He didn't move. Didn't wipe it away. Movement meant detection. Montana elk hunting had taught him to stay motionless for hours, to ignore discomfort, to focus only on the target. 07:38. The Japanese sniper's patience broke. He ran, broke from cover, sprinted toward different concealment 50 yards away. McCarthy tracked him, led him, fired. Missed. The bullet hit a tree trunk. Bark exploded. The Japanese sniper kept running. McCarthy cycled the bolt, led more. Accounted for increased distance, fired again. Hit. Center mass. The Japanese sniper fell. Didn't get up. 3 kills. One morning. October 17th. McCarthy was eliminating Japanese snipers faster than they could be replaced. The original Japanese sniper force around Henderson Field was estimated at 12 to 15 individuals based on operational patterns. McCarthy had killed 6 in 4 days, half the force, maybe more. October 18th followed the same pattern. McCarthy went deep into Japanese territory, found a 2-man Japanese sniper team at 450 yards. Maximum effective range for his 4-power Lyman scope. He killed both. First kill at 06:52. Second kill 3 minutes later at 06:55. The Japanese snipers never saw him, never knew where the shots came from. They just died. 7 total confirmed kills. 4 days. McCarthy was destroying the Japanese sniper threat systematically, professionally. But the Japanese had 1 sniper left who was different from the others. Better trained, more experienced, more patient. And on October 19th, that sniper decided to hunt the hunter. 0600 hours. October 19th. McCarthy and Russo set up in their standard position. 1,200 yards into the jungle. Good fields of fire. Good concealment. They'd used variations of this position 3 times. Maybe that was a mistake. Maybe they'd become predictable. Professional snipers never became predictable. McCarthy realized his error at 0642 when a bullet cracked past his head. 6 inches. The bullet missed McCarthy's skull by 6 inches. He heard the crack of the bullet passing, felt the shock wave, then heard the rifle report. Behind him, the shot came from behind his position. The Japanese sniper had flanked him, gotten behind him, role reversal. McCarthy was the target now. He and Russo went flat immediately, pressed themselves into the jungle floor. The Japanese sniper fired again. The bullet hit a tree near Russo, close enough that bark fragments hit Russo's face. The Japanese sniper had them pinned, had the advantage, was hunting them the same way McCarthy had hunted 7 other Japanese snipers. Russo asked how the Japanese sniper got behind them. McCarthy said the sniper had been tracking them, studying their patterns, predicting their positions. This wasn't a regular Japanese sniper. This was their best, their ace, the sniper they sent to kill the American who'd been killing their snipers. McCarthy's position was exposed. The Japanese sniper knew where they were, had elevation advantage, had better position. McCarthy had 2 options: stay pinned and eventually die when the Japanese sniper maneuvered for a clear shot, or move and hope to reach better cover before getting killed. Neither option was good. McCarthy made a decision, told Russo that when McCarthy moved, Russo should fire his Mon Garand toward the ridge where the Japanese sniper was positioned. Not aimed fire, just suppression. Make the Japanese sniper duck, give McCarthy 3 seconds to relocate. Russo asked if McCarthy was sure. McCarthy said no, but they'd die if they stayed here. McCarthy rolled left. Hard roll. Fast. Russo opened fire immediately. 8 shots. Rapid fire. The Mon Garand barked. 30-06 rounds snapped through the jungle toward the ridge. The Japanese sniper returned fire. Muzzle flash visible. 500 yards. Extreme range. But now McCarthy knew exactly where the Japanese sniper was. McCarthy went prone, brought the Winchester up, found the muzzle flash location in his scope. The Japanese sniper was partially visible. Just his head and shoulders. Small target. 500 yards. At that range, bullet drop was approximately 56 inches. McCarthy needed to hold nearly 5 feet high. Wind was 3 miles per hour from the northwest. He needed to compensate, left approximately 8 inches. The Japanese sniper was repositioning, had 2 seconds of visibility, maybe 3, then he'd be behind cover again. McCarthy placed the crosshairs 5 feet high and 8 inches left of the target, accounted for all variables, squeezed the trigger. The Winchester fired. Through the scope, McCarthy watched the bullet impact, hit, the Japanese sniper fell, tumbled down the ridge, confirmed kill. Number 8. The closest call McCarthy had experienced. The Japanese sniper had almost killed him. Would have killed him if McCarthy had been less experienced, less skilled, less lucky. They extracted immediately. Didn't confirm the kill. Didn't investigate. Just moved. Got out of the area before other Japanese forces arrived. Made it back to the perimeter by 0800 hours. McCarthy reported 8 confirmed kills. 4 days. Lieutenant Whitaker told him the entire division was talking about him. The Marine who hunted Japanese snipers with a mail-order rifle. McCarthy said he wasn't finished yet. McCarthy refused to stop at 8 kills. The Japanese still had snipers operating. Marines were still at risk. He told Lieutenant Whitaker he was going out again. Afternoon hunt. October 19th. 1600 hours. The Japanese snipers shot during 2 windows. Morning and afternoon. McCarthy had been hunting mornings. Time to hunt afternoons. He and Russo moved into the jungle at 1500 hours. Early. Gave them time to set up before the Japanese snipers moved into position. They chose a spot overlooking Henderson Field from 800 yards, far from the perimeter. Deep in Japanese territory, McCarthy was betting the Japanese snipers would set up close for afternoon operations, try to maximize their effective range against American targets. 1630 hours. McCarthy's bet paid off. 3 Japanese snipers moved into position overlooking Henderson Field. They were aggressive. Close. 800 yards from American lines. Too far for most rifles. Perfect range for experienced snipers with good optics. They thought they were safe at that distance. They were wrong. McCarthy ranged them through his scope. 800 yards. Extreme range for a 4-power scope. The targets looked small, difficult to identify precisely, but McCarthy could see them clearly enough. 3 men, 3 rifles, setting up for operations. He had to get closer. 800 yards was beyond his confidence range with the 4-power Lyman scope. He told Russo they were moving. Stalking closer. Dangerous decision. Moving meant noise. Noise meant detection. But 800 yards was too far for guaranteed kills. McCarthy needed to be at 400 yards or less. He needed certainty. 1 shot. 1 kill. That was the standard. They stalked forward. Took 40 minutes to cover 450 yards. Slow movement, careful footfalls. Every step planned, every branch avoided. They reached 350 yards from the Japanese sniper position at 1715 hours. Good range. McCarthy settled into position. Russo, beside him with binoculars. The wind had picked up. 5 miles per hour from the east. McCarthy accounted for it. Held left approximately 6 inches to compensate for wind drift at 350 yards. He targeted the lead sniper. The one giving hand signals to the others. Team leader. Kill the leader first. Disrupt command and control. McCarthy fired at 1718 hours. The Winchester cracked. The lead sniper fell. The other 2 snipers scattered immediately. Good training, good discipline. They didn't panic, didn't freeze, just moved to cover. But McCarthy was already tracking the second sniper. Cycled the bolt. Fresh round. The second sniper dove behind a fallen log. McCarthy fired as he moved. Lead the target. Hit him mid-dive. The sniper crashed into the log. Didn't move after impact. The third sniper returned fire. 3 shots. Rapid. Wild. Panic fire. The rounds went high. Hit trees 20 feet above McCarthy's position. The third sniper didn't know exactly where McCarthy was, just shooting at probable locations, wasting ammunition. McCarthy tracked the muzzle flashes, found the third sniper's position. Waited for him to reload. The Japanese sniper's rifle went quiet. He was reloading. 2-second window. McCarthy had a clear shot at 200 yards. Close range. He fired. The third sniper fell. 3 kills. October 19th afternoon. 10 total confirmed kills in 5 days. October 20th. McCarthy hunted one more time. He knew the Japanese had maybe 1 or 2 snipers left. The original force had been decimated, but even 1 sniper could kill Marines. McCarthy wasn't finished until they were all dead. All eliminated. 0 threat remaining. 700 hours. McCarthy found the last Japanese sniper. Solo operator. No team, no spotter. Just 1 man in a very well-concealed position. Dug into the jungle floor. Covered with vegetation. Nearly invisible. McCarthy almost missed him. Only saw him because the Japanese sniper shifted position slightly. Created movement. Movement attracted attention. Range was 430 yards. The Japanese sniper was patient. Professional. Didn't move again after that initial shift. Just waited. Watching Henderson Field. Waiting for targets. McCarthy watched him through the Lyman scope. Studied him. This sniper understood fieldcraft, understood camouflage, understood patience. He'd probably survived this long because he was better than the others. More careful, more disciplined. McCarthy waited 4 hours. 0700 to 1100 hours. 4 hours without moving, without shooting. Just watching, waiting for the perfect shot. The Japanese sniper finally shifted position at 1100 hours, adjusted his rifle, lined up on a target at Henderson Field. 2-second window of clear visibility. McCarthy fired. The bullet crossed 430 yards in half a second, hit the Japanese sniper in the upper chest. The sniper collapsed. Didn't move again. 11th confirmed kill. 6 days. October 14th through October 20th. 11 Japanese snipers eliminated. 0 Marine casualties from sniper fire during the same period. McCarthy returned to the command post at 1300 hours, reported to Lieutenant Whitaker. 11 confirmed kills. Maybe 2 more probables that he hadn't been able to verify with bodies. Whitaker stared at him, asked if McCarthy was certain. 11 confirmed. McCarthy said, "Yes, sir." 11 confirmed. All within 6 days. All with a Winchester Model 70 purchased from a Sears catalog for $73. Gunnery Sergeant O'Brien was present. He examined McCarthy's rifle, looked at the action, cycled the bolt, checked the scope. Everything functioned perfectly. No jamming, no fogging, no overheating. The rifle had performed flawlessly under combat conditions. O'Brien said he'd been wrong about civilian hunting rifles. Said McCarthy's Winchester had done what no Marine Corps-issued rifle had accomplished. McCarthy said the rifle just did what he needed it to do. Whitaker said Division Headquarters wanted to talk to McCarthy. Major General Alexander Vandergrift himself wanted a briefing. McCarthy was ordered to report on October 22nd. The interview happened at 1st Marine Division Headquarters. Vandergrift sat across from McCarthy, asked detailed questions about tactics, about equipment, about methodology. How did McCarthy find the Japanese snipers? How did he predict their positions? How did he achieve such high accuracy at long range? McCarthy explained his approach. Patience over aggression, single shots, no rapid fire. Think like a hunter, not a soldier. Predict enemy movement rather than react to it. Use terrain for concealment and advantage. Know your equipment intimately. The Winchester worked because McCarthy had fired 10,000 rounds through it. Knew exactly where every bullet would go under every condition he'd tested. Vandergrift asked about the Winchester versus the M1903 Springfield. McCarthy said the Springfield was an excellent rifle. But Marines were issued Springfields they'd fired maybe 500 rounds through, maybe less. They didn't know their weapons intimately, didn't know every characteristic, every quirk. Familiarity mattered. Familiarity meant accuracy. Accuracy meant kills. Vandergrift asked if Marines should be allowed to bring personal rifles. McCarthy said no. Said the Marine Corps should issue better equipment and provide more training. But until that happened, if a Marine had a rifle he trusted completely and the skill to use it effectively, command shouldn't stop him. Sometimes personal equipment worked better than standard issue. Sometimes individual initiative saved lives that regulations would have lost. Vandergrift was quiet for 30 seconds. Then he assigned McCarthy to training duty. Told him to develop a scout sniper course. Teach other Marines what McCarthy knew. Spread the knowledge. Turn one sniper into 50 snipers. McCarthy said he wasn't qualified to teach. Vandergrift disagreed. Said McCarthy had killed 11 Japanese snipers in 6 days with a mail-order hunting rifle. That made him the most qualified instructor in the Pacific Theater. By November 1942, McCarthy was conducting the Marine Corps' first formal counter-sniper course. 12 students. Hand-picked. The curriculum covered fieldcraft, camouflage, movement, discipline, patience, observation, target identification, ballistics, wind reading, range estimation, shot placement, and equipment maintenance. Marines were allowed to modify their issued M1903 Springfields, glass-bed the actions, reduce trigger pull weight, mount whatever scopes they could acquire. Individual customization was encouraged. 8 students graduated. Deployed as scout snipers by December 1942. Combined kills over the next 3 months. 47 confirmed Japanese snipers. Marine casualties from Japanese sniper fire dropped by 63% between December 1942 and March 1943. The ratio had reversed. Americans were killing Japanese snipers faster than the Japanese could train new ones. 23 Marines purchased personal Winchester Model 70s through mail-order catalogs. Same rifle McCarthy used. $73 plus scope. Marine Corps unofficially permitted it for qualified snipers. The regulation violations were ignored because the results couldn't be argued. Winchester Model 70s killed Japanese snipers. That was all that mattered. McCarthy survived the war. Guadalcanal, Cape Gloucester, Peleliu, 37 confirmed kills total. 11 snipers, 26 infantry, never seriously wounded. Shrapnel wound at Peleliu, remained in action. Discharged November 1945 with the rank of Sergeant, Silver Star, Bronze Star, Purple Heart. He returned to Montana, resumed work as a hunting guide. Never talked about the war. The Marine Corps established formal Scout Sniper School at Quantico, Virginia, in 1953. Curriculum based partly on McCarthy's Guadalcanal methods. Marine Corps Field Manual 2310, published 1955, included sections on counter-sniper operations derived from lessons learned on Guadalcanal. McCarthy's name didn't appear in the manual, but his influence was on every page. Vietnam-era Marine snipers used Winchester Model 70s until the M40 rifle replaced them in 1966. The M40 design was influenced by Winchester Model 70's action. Direct lineage from McCarthy's $73 Sears catalog rifle to the standard Marine Corps sniper rifle. McCarthy died June 7, 2003. Age, 85. Missoula, Montana. 47 people attended his funeral. 12 were former Marine snipers. His Winchester Model 70 was donated to the National Museum of the Marine Corps at Quantico. Display case label reads, Winchester Model 70, caliber 30-06. Used by Sergeant Daniel McCarthy, 1st Marine Division, Guadalcanal, 1942. Confirmed 11 Japanese sniper kills in 6 days. This civilian hunting rifle demonstrated the effectiveness of precision marksmanship in jungle warfare and influenced development of United States Marine Corps Scout Sniper Program. Marine snipers visit that display. Stand before that rifle. Understand what it represents. Sometimes the best tool isn't the authorized one. Sometimes regulations need breaking. Sometimes a Montana hunting guide with a mail-order rifle knows more than the entire military establishment. McCarthy never wanted recognition, just wanted his brothers to stop dying. 11 Japanese snipers in 6 days, 0 Marine casualties same period. That was enough. If this moved you, hit that like button. Subscribe for more forgotten stories of courage and innovation. Comment where you're watching from. Our community spans the globe. You're keeping these memories alive. Thank you for making sure Daniel McCarthy and his $73 Winchester aren't forgotten. These men deserve to be remembered.